Thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're really pleased that we have the support from Kooth to be able to offer our pupils a service that we know offers a friendly and safe platform for children and young people to access mental health support. The impact of COVID has definitely been felt by all of us, and as a school, we really want to be able to signpost our pupils to seek the best help if they need it. Alexia is going to guide us this evening in the services that they offer and how to access them. I will now hand over to Alexia. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. So today I'm just going to tell you about Kooth. I'm going to separate it into two parts. So the first part is just to tell you about what Kooth is and what are the different features and how you can access it. And then at the end, the second part will be about the back end, or how we support our young people with our clinical team and our counsellors and other professionals that are online waiting to support our young people. So as on your screen now, you should be able to see our Kooth logo. So anytime you see that K with the Kooth, that is us, and we are an online mental health service to help our young people with their general well-being and their emotional needs. So I'm just going to go forward here on my presentation and just give you a bit of a spiel about Kooth, which was founded in 2001. And it was originally founded to break down the stigma against mental health services. Now, Kooth is just an online platform, and it is also a mix of pathway to help other young people to access other services and other support networks. So it's not just about their mental health, it's also about their well-being as well. Now, Kooth is commissioned by different local authorities. So, for example, in South West London, it is commissioned by its local CCG group, which is a clinical commission group, but Kooth is a national service. So it is commissioned slightly differently in different parts of areas. So it could be commissioned by the NHS, it could be by the local authorities, different charities or businesses. And this is to provide an anonymous, personalised way for young people to be able to access this support. Now, Kooth has over 4,000 logins per day, and in a year, it's over 100,000 in a year. And we provide end-to-end support. So in South West London, currently, the age range is from 11 up to their 22nd birthday, but hopefully we are planning to work for it to be up from 11 up to the age of 25. But Kooth is our flagship, so we do have an adult version service, but that's not available in the South West London at the moment. But Kooth is on board and is ready, alive and waiting for your young people to be able to access the service if and where they need to. Now, earlier on, I mentioned that it is an integrated service, and that just basically means that if a young person is accessing Kooth or wants to access Kooth, they can use this service to be able to get access to other youth provisions. It could be their local knitting group, football group, dance group. It could be anything that they wanted to. It could also be a gateway for them to access other mental health services as well. Kooth works best as an integrated service, which basically means if they're waiting for their face-to-face counselling session, they can use this as a buffer. They can use this as a whilst they're waiting, because we do understand that there are long waiting times. So don't be surprised if CAMS or other local services says use Kooth in the interim while you're waiting for your face-to-face service, because the CAMS and other services are well in tuned with Kooth and do work in partnership with Kooth to provide that rounded service to our young people. And the great thing about Kooth so far, it is free, and all the materials and resources that our young people can access are all free. And if you wanted to know more about Kooth and you wanted to access some of the materials, we can also provide them for you free of charge, because it's all funded by your local CCG groups. So I just wanted to give you some food for thought about your area and some of the presenting issues compared to last year this time. So where you can see the white arrows, that line there is all for children and young people. And you can see that there's been an increase in some of the unique concerns and issues that young people have raised. So things such as there's been a 98% increase in sleep difficulties, 62% with schools and college issues, an increase of 51% for eating disorders, 47% for sadness, 18% for family relationships, and 115% for loss of aspiration, and or motivation. So that is quite an increase for any young person to deal with on a day-to-day basis. But then also not leaving out our parents and carers and our guardians. We fully appreciate that you parents, carers and guardians are also going through changes that also need support. So I would just like to highlight here that there has been an increase of relationships, issues, concerns and worries that, along with eating disorders or eating difficulties, emotional abuse, sleeping difficulties, parenting issues and trauma. So on a graphical scale, this is all our national statistics, so this is nothing to do with specifically your area. However, in South West London, for the last quarter, so that's in the last 3 months, Surbiton has had the highest Kooth users, and they have presented the top 3 issues such as anxiety and stress, family relationships, friendships, but eating disorders is now on the increase as well. So for Surbiton specifically, that is the statistics that I've recently got from our database for the last 3 quarters. So you can see that it is on an increase, and it is something that we do need to be able to speak to our young people about, and be open about the conversations that we're having about these issues, and and recognize within ourselves where we might need some support, or be able to assign our young person to get support for themselves as well. So what is Kooth and what is it not? So before I give you all the features about Kooth and what it is all about, I just wanted to clearly give you some key messages that this is a free service for our young people, and it is not an app. You can only go to Kooth on our website, which is kooth.com. But don't worry, I'll be giving you some more information about that in a moment. And they do not need a referral, so they don't need to wait for their GP. They do not need to wait for a psychologist or a pediatric person to give them any kind of referral or slip or letter or anything like that. These young people can basically sign up themselves and start accessing all the resources on that platform for them. Now, it is an anonymous service, so we do encourage young people to be able to, speak about anything that they want to, and not feel embarrassed, because no one knows who they are unless they want to reveal any personal or identifying information. Now, everything on the platform is pre-moderated, but I'll go into that quite shortly. So what is Kooth? So Kooth, as we know, is an online service where young people can get some counselling or to talk to one of our practitioners online, but it is a text-based service. So this is where the young people will be able to have that one-to-one time with the practitioner or the therapist, but it is a text-based service. They can also message the team. If they don't want to wait in the queue to speak to one of our practitioners, they can just message the team and someone will get back to them within 24 hours. Usually it's a lot quicker than that, but 24 hours just to give us that buffer window. There's no later response than that. They can access our Kooth magazines. They can access our discussion boards, our live forums. Now, with the magazines and the discussion boards, they can create their own content. And again, everything is pre-moderated, so there is no way that 2 young people or a group of young people can directly message each other without it being pre-moderated. And these are helpful tools for our young people to be able to express what they're going through, share real life experiences, or they can speak in the third person. It really is down to them on how they want to be able to share their woes, or share good experiences, bad experiences, or simply just to kind of like share things that they've that they're interested in. So it could be that they've started to read a new magazine or take part in a podcast. It could be a load of different things, and our young people do like to share things that give them positive affirmation, and they give positive affirmation to each other as well. So alongside that, they can actually take part in mini activities as well. So these activities they can do on their own, or they can work with another young person to be able to complete these tasks. It's totally up to them, but it gives them very, very clear breakdowns of the activities and how to complete them. They can get peer support. So once they post up something, or they've written an article, other young people will be able to write on their comment of what they've written, and everything is pre-moderated, so nothing goes through that is going to be negative or triggering to another young person. And if they do try to post something, it'll either not get posted, or one of our team will ask that person to perhaps maybe rephrase it, because maybe they've written something and it was a bit misleading, or wasn't very clear. Then they'll be asked to just to rewrite something on there. They can also take part in their journals. So if they don't have a safe place to be able to store their feelings, or they feel they don't have a safe space, they can use our online journals, and then that way they can keep a log of all their feelings, the activities that they've been going through in a safe space. And then also they can take part in the goal settings features on our platform. And this goal settings they can do on their own. They can set up to 10 SMART goals, or they can work with our online team, our practitioners, to be able to set 10 realistic SMART goals for them to be able to achieve. And sometimes it's just working with someone to be able to break down their goals into smaller bite size that helps them to become more achievable. Then one other link on our website will be the helpful links. So again, another feature is to show young people that there is other ways to be able to get support. If they don't feel like some of those features on there is useful, we have quick links to other services such as Bernardo's, loads of different mental health supports, services, youth provisions. And if they wanted something specific, they could message the team and get a response within 24 hours. For example, if they wanted to know around if there was a social group that they can participate in their local area. So I want to move forward here and just give you a bit more information around Kooth and the things that we can support with. So we are not a crisis service, we are an early intervention service, and we can help with absolutely anything. We have a motto: if it's bothering you, it's worth talking about. So Kooth helps with absolutely anything, and again, this is beneficial to those people, especially if they want to access other services. We can be their gateway to other services as well. And there is no referrals needed, as I said earlier on, and the waiting times does depend on the individual needs. So for example, if a young person does sign up and they want to take part in Kooth and they want to speak to a practitioner, they go on to sign up, and they then access the support, and they might be waiting in the queue. They could be waiting 20 minutes, they could be waiting 10 minutes, and then they always get pop-ups and messages from the team to let them know how long roughly they're going to be in the queue. But obviously, if they're going to be trying to speak to someone 10 minutes before the time finishes, then they might not get a call that day, but they will get a message from our team to invite them to speak to someone the following day, and they'll answer a survey just to find out if there was anything specific that they needed to speak about. So we are an early intervention. And again, we do signpostage, and we support with referrals. So if a young person is coming on and are representing in certain needs or have a certain crisis, we can support our young people to access other services by helping them complete a referral sheet or speaking with their GP or their local school. And there's loads of ways that we can support our young people depending on what the needs are. And when we say we provide end-to-end support, so because we support in a wide age range, from 11 up to the 22nd and 23rd birthday, we will then, if they are an adult and we have the adult services in the area, we would then just continue and transfer their details over to the Quilt area, which is our adult service. But for now, it is just from 11 up to the 23rd birthday. And so that is quite a long journey that a young person can access that support. And even then, once they finish that age bracket, if they needed some additional time, we may be able to extend it just for that specific young person for a duration until we can make sure that they've got somewhere that they can continue to access and support. So we wouldn't just leave them in the lurch. Okay, so I'm going to move forward here. There we go. So if a young person was to sign up, it is a really, really simple process. Again, it is an online service. It isn't an app. So signing up does take less than 2 minutes. You just need to log on to kooth.com. You need to create an account, and it's not going to ask that young person any personal information. They're just going to ask them to select their geographical area. This is just so that when they are asking for additional services or needs in their area, we already have that information, so we can then just sieve out our local information and be able to provide them with the details. We would need to know their gender, just so that we've got some data around who is accessing our support, and the year of their birth, and a username and password. Now, on most platforms, there is an encouragement to create a username that helps people identify them as an individual, whereas on Kooth, because we want it to maintain as an anonymous service, we do encourage our users to create a name that is not going to identify them as an individual. So if they all know them as Crazy Red Socks, it would be the case where they would be able to create a different name, not referring to any kind of colour or socks, just so that it's really anonymous. And then this way, if a young person is, expressing any issues or concerns that they are going through, they don't feel like that maybe perhaps someone might know them as this name, and therefore they can then feel more open and have more control about what they're expressing and how much they're going to be able to share with our online team. And then the username, and then the password, they do need to remember their password and their username, just purely because we are not collecting any kind of email address, telephone numbers from them, so we will not be able to reset their password or their username. So please, if you are going to encourage your young person to use this platform, it is important that they do remember their username and password. And if they do forget it, it's not a problem. They just need to set up a new account and let the online team know that perhaps maybe they remember their username, but they couldn't remember their password. And then they can tell the online team, and they will try and marry the two accounts together. If they don't remember their username and password, then it might be a bit more trickier, but do let the online team know, and we will try and marry the two together. Okay, so in terms of the operational times, it is operational every single day of the year, but the counsellors or the practitioners, if you prefer to call them that, are online between a set time. So between Monday and Friday, they are available and ready to speak to our young people or chat to our young people from 12 noon till 10 at night. And then on the weekends, bank holidays, festive days, it is from 6 in the evening till 10 o'clock at night. And this is every single day of the year. and their website is available 24/7. So even if we are not online, they can still take advantage of the magazines. They can contribute to the magazines. They can contribute to the forums, and they can also, you know, post on other or comment on other users as well. So I'm going to move forward here and just give you a bit more of an insight. So we are a national service. However, just to give you a bit more specific details for your area, it is going up to 11 to 25, but it's just not live just yet, but it is 11 to 23 at the moment, but it will be going up to 25. Camden and Islington, for example, is 11 to 25, but the older age range from 18 plus is for a specific cohort of people. But across London generally and nationally, it really does depend on how it's been commissioned, because depending on what the commissioner's needs are, will depend on what age range we then support with. Okay, so now I'm going to go and explain to you about more of the back end of how Kooth operates and the assessments and resources that we do support our young people. So you'll be able to see some of the screenshots and blurred out some of the personal information around what it looks like for our practitioners to be able to support our young people. So just like any other counselling sessions or therapy sessions, we do take case notes. Now, as you can see on the screen, there is some information blotted out, and that's just because it's got some identifiable information. And this young person is presenting in some low risk needs, because we do use RAG rating systems, and we do log how long the session is, which is up to an hour a week. And they've just given some background. They're presenting issues and which is anxiety and stress and worry, and if they have had a risk assessment and so forth. So you can see here we log a lot of details on our system, and we look at different things such as the risk factors, protective factors, any intervention and psychomaterials that we may use and support our young persons, next steps, and any signposting. So again, that's ensuring that we're not trying to keep all our young people onto Kooth, because if it's not fitting, we will encourage them and support them to access other services as well. So this is an example of what it looks like. Now, they do get introduced to 2 to 3 other practitioners. This is purely because if they come on randomly and want to speak to someone, and that particular person who they may be first introduced to and they're really comfortable with may not be available, because perhaps they may be speaking to someone, they could be ill, or they could be dealing with a different situation. That person might not be available, so then they can then be comfortable to know that they are going to speak to someone that they've spoken to before, and this process is very clearly laid out to them when they first sign up as well. So some of the assessments and the tools that we do use alongside the case notes would be questionnaires. So we do use different types of questionnaires to depend on what the needs or the presenting needs are that the young person has shared. And so they would have access to that as well. They will also be able to see their journals. Now, this is important because if their young person is displaying risky behaviour or presenting themselves in a way that might need some intervention, we'll be able to see that from their journals that they've written on there as well. We'll be able to also see any presenting issues. So, for example, if they try to post something online about someone's article, or they were expressing things that were a bit more concerning and needed some intervention, we will be able to see that, and we will be able to just send them a message and see how they're doing, and catch up with them and see if there's any kind of support needs and help them in that way. But then equally, we'll be able to look at their goals, because that is quite an important task within itself. We were able to look at their goals, to help them set SMART goals and be able to take bite-sized steps towards those. And so, yes, so this is the middle section here, kind of gives them gives you an overview of what the chat kind of looks like. And yes, sometimes we do use emojis because sometimes young people express themselves with emojis, and we do work very hard to ensure that there is full clarification around anything that we may not understand, because all young people speak differently, because it depends on what area they're coming from. And so yes, so we do a lot of clarification and making sure that we are ready to be able to understand them in a variety of different ways. And if English is not their first language, we do use Google Translate. And again, if there's anything that is, you know, not quite clear, because obviously Google Translate is not always the 100% accurate. And so we will just clarify any issues or concerns or misunderstandings on that as well. So I'm just going to move forward there. So some of the resources that we do use are the CBTs, some helpful resources. We will use psychoeducation materials. We'll use internal and external links. So again, we will embed all of the knowledge and skills from other professionals as well, to ensure that we're providing a holistic approach to that young person and giving them the best support that we can offer. And then also looking at different types of worksheets that they may be able to access, along with resources and other databases. And sometimes, yes, we do refer them to different apps and websites to be able to get them the right support. So it could be exploring sleeping patterns and maybe looking at different meditational or calming apps that might be useful for them, depending on what their needs are. So going back to those goals, because I know that they can be quite important to some of our young users, especially in the South West London area. I know that they use quite a lot of their goal settings. Now their goal settings, again, they can set up to 10 SMART goals where they can, you know, pinpoint things that they really need to achieve. Or they might have something, they might have got one goal and it might be just to be really happy, but it might be with the counsellor or the clinical lead will be able to help them break down what happy means to them, because everyone has their own definition of being happy or what makes them happy. So it might be just that sort of conversation there. And then with their goals can always change. So as you can see, there's some of them that says 7+ or 7-. They can change their goals depending on how they feel that they're achieving it on that day. So using music to help them calm down when they're angry, they might have really achieved that over the next 3 days, but then on the 4th day actually it's gone down, and we would be able to track that and be able to have that kind of dialogue with them to find out, okay, so what happened on the 4th day, and break it down to them, and see where they're at from there, and then see if there's any kind of other strategies that they may be able to put in place to help them when that music situation is not supporting them and fulfilling the achieved desired goal. And so yeah, so that's basically what the goal setting works on, and supports our young people. And this is kind of what it looks like. It's getting a bit of an upgrade at the moment, so it might change, but for now this is what it looks like. So yeah, there we go. So just talking about the risk management side of stuff. So risk management is at the core principle of everything that we do, and that's both for the users, our staff, and any of our clinical leads. So, and obviously we have a very robust clinical expert team who are our first point of call after it's been after a situation or a concern has been raised by either the staff or a young person. And then there's very clear processes that we do follow to ensure that everyone's well-being and safety is at the forefront of everything that we do. We have very clear safeguarding protocols and guidance, and we work quite a seamless approach to be able to work with other external agencies as well, to be able to provide that holistic support for our young people. Again, just like anybody else, we do conduct risk assessments, and we provide a confidential space where our users will be able to understand our duties and keep them safe from harm. And then obviously, you know, if they provide us with that identifiable information, and there is no concerns, we will then be able to keep those safe for them, but we might be able to use that information to be able to provide extra support to them, meaning that if they may need extra external supports, like from ourselves as a local authority, because maybe they're presenting in suicidal ideation, we may be able to get out emergency services for them if and when it is needed. And so, yes, there is an anonymous service, but they are very much aware that we are not a crisis line, we are an early intervention, but we can still support in a moment of crisis, because no one ever knows when they're going to be in a crisis. So I just wanted to give you a bit more just food for thought about how do we know that this is all working? How do we know about the issues and concerns that our young people are presenting? We use a global tracking service, and so we are an evidence-informed practice. We use different sorts of theories or assessments to be able to monitor what the presenting issues are. So nationally, we can see when trends and patterns are happening with young people. So at the very start of lockdown, for example, we can see the levels of anxiety with the young people shot up tenfold, and they started to present with stress and other kind of presenting issues. And we started to use, we have been using evaluation tools. So we get feedback from our young people. Some young people take part in steering groups and forums and things like that to be able to help us inform our practice and make sure that we are providing the best service that we can for our young people. And we are very much outcome focused to make sure that we are providing the best service we can for our users. Again, so we do the signposting, or what we call as pathways, and so this pathways does act as a part of their care plan, and that just basically means we log down if we've referred a young person to an anti-bullying group or an educational group or another mental health services. We do access that, and we put them on their portfolio, and it acts as a care plan, so that if we do ever need to have other services involved, we've got a care plan or an action plan or a history of a young person to be able to put that all together for them. And then, you know, we want them to develop their interests, hobbies, and provide, you know, different sources of networks and support groups, and also provide other face-to-face services. So again, if you ever had a young person who is going to go to CAMHS, but the waiting queue may be 3 months, 6 months, which is not unheard of, or they go into a different supporting group and it might be a long waiting time, do not be alarmed if they say use Kooth as a pathway or as a way of accessing the support while you're waiting. And some people carry on still accessing Kooth while they're having their face-to-face, because they might use them as just, you know, to read the articles, maybe not participate in the counselling, but they can, and we won't clash with what they're already getting support with. We will just kind of support them to get that support and continue it in a healthy environment as well. So we do many different other things as well. So we've got things such as from our feedback from our young people, we do many other things. So we developed our podcasts, so young people get involved in the podcast and, you know, give us information around what kind of conversations they want to hear us talk about. We developed those games from the young people's feedbacks, because what they wanted to do is, while they're waiting to speak to someone, they wanted to do something, and especially if they identified a change in their friend, they wanted to be able to do something to be able to, you know, start the conversation around where they can also get some support from. And many more. So we've got a campaign, Don't Do It Alone campaign right now, with social media influencers like Chunks and Amelia and many more, who are people who are very passionate around young people getting the support, regardless if it's from Kooth or anywhere else. They want them to get the support, so they have been our social media campaign users. So yeah, so really, if you wanted to know any more about Kooth and its information, or you're not sure, you don't know how to navigate it, please reach out. And that is Kooth for you. And that's my details on the screen. But I'm sure that the school will be able to share that with you as you go forward anyway. So that's me.
Thank you so much, Alexia, for all that information. There's so much available that perhaps we didn't realise initially, and you talked us through it really brilliantly, so thank you.
That's okay, no problem.
I'm just going to check a question. Sorry.
Don't worry.
Yeah, how do you find out who the young person is when there's a serious concern? If you were obviously really concerned about an individual, how do you identify them?
So when they first initially sign up, they will get a welcome conversation with one of our wellbeing practitioners, and just to talk them through the process about what happens on the Kooth platform if they are going to speak to someone, and make them very much aware that it is an early intervention service and not a crisis line. But if they are presented in a crisis, are they happy to then reveal who they are to be able to get the additional services? And most of the time, 98% of the time, most people will say, yeah, my name is Alexia and I actually do need some support. Yeah. And what can you do for me? There is a few that might say, actually, no, I'm presenting with an issue, but I don't want to, give you my information. And we have to appreciate that, just like any other services, sometimes you can't always help everyone, but we will be definitely there to check up on them. If they do not want to, and reveal who they are, we will review their case notes to see if there is any kind of information that might have helped us identify them as an individual, just through general conversations. And then that way we can then support some young people. For example, there has been a young person who didn't want to present who they were, which is fine, but just through their case notes, we established then the area that they're residing and their GP, because they said their GP area through conversations. We then presented the information to the police, and they would then be able to identify them and knew that actually this was Alexia, who presents with these issues, and they managed to find them and be able to help them. So sometimes, even without the actual details, we can still be on hand to be able to support them.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thank you so much. I just think overall it's amazing how many things there are that the young people can access, and I really love the journal idea, because I think that's amazing and something that we definitely would encourage our pupils to do. And I think it's fantastic that they can do that and have a place to do that, which is amazing. So thank you so much for talking us through that in so much detail, and all the provision that Kooth gives. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So thank you for giving up your time to talk us through it and give us all that information. And we will share this recorded version with parents in a letter at the end of the week. So I really thank you so much for all the valuable work you've been doing and for supporting our young people. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.